celebrities, they're just like us, especially when it comes to their pandemic experience, as we see in Allie Wentworth's new book, Allie's Well That Ends Well, chronicling her stories, experiences, and love of Fudgy the Whale. And we are so excited to catch up with her now. Welcome. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm looking at your shoe, and I'm looking at mine. And I'm thinking, weren't we supposed to get rid of high heels?
We were supposed to get rid of these. What happened? No, but we also said that we never wear these. And these are not street walking shoes. These are.
Well, speak for yourself.
I know.
When I street walk, I wear my heels.
Well, I do. It depends on the mission.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the book.
Yes.
The book starts out, with you contracting COVID, and this was very early on in COVID when it was like the scariest days.
It was.
So what was kind of going through your head when that first diagnosis?
I couldn't believe that I had it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where, everybody was terrified, global pandemic, and I thought, I was out walking my dog, and I was having labored breathing, and of course I thought, I'm just out of shape.
Yes.
And I couldn't, and then back then you would quarantine for 3 weeks, you know. Now everybody's calmed down a little bit. That's actually a picture that George Stephanopoulos, my husband, took, because we wanted to sort of show people that not every photo of somebody having COVID was on a ventilator in a hospital.
Right.
So we were sort of trying to make people feel a little bit more at ease. But, when you're up in a room for 3 weeks and you've got teenage daughters, you start to just write some stuff down. And it was also like, how are we all coping?
Yeah.
And I know people were baking bread and doing all kinds of, and this is sort of our way of coping, which was, it's so many different things, from trying to find laughter with Love Island Australia, or helping food banks because so many people couldn't get food. And, it was really sort of a look at humanity in the big picture.
Yeah.
But for me as a parent, especially when I was married to a news person who's doing death numbers,
right,
I had to find ways to give levity to my kids.
So you got to keep it light somehow, because it's a very depressing place to be.
Yes.
When you're hearing everything that he's reporting on too, because you're getting it firsthand.
Yes.
But we follow you in this journey in this book, and with humor, of course, because that's what you're best at. With quarantining, like you said, with baking, with starting your own vegetable garden. I think a lot of people had big dreams of what they were going to do and get accomplished during this pandemic.
Yes.
What do you think was your biggest accomplishment over the last 2 years?
Well, first I would say just to get through it, and to everybody be healthy. But then I have to say, and I didn't realize this till later with the book, I said, we have to kind of use this as a lesson in general, because, the whole world was imploding.
Yeah.
And I thought, my biggest thing is, how do we find humanity again? How do we find empathy again? How do we come together again? Because I know when I had COVID, I had 2 neighbors. One neighbor who saw George going into a pharmacy masked with gloves to get me antibiotics because I had pneumonia, called paparazzi. The other neighbor left a note in our mailbox saying, if there's anything we can do to help, if we can drop off food. So you go, wow, these are 2 different reactions to somebody who's sick. And I thought, what has happened to us? So I'm going to find the humanity, and that might be through clamming, it might be through Fudgy the Whale, whatever it is. I'm going to use this as a lesson, and I'm going to realize that things like there's so many people that were in my life that I'm like, they don't make me feel good.
It made you take stock. You say in the book, like, who's the good friends and who's the not so good friends, and that's kind of reset all of us in a bit. But I love that you say in a lighter way too, in a lighter note, that Fudgy the Whale got you through the pandemic.
It did.
Cookie Puss was my cake of choice, but will you now be celebrating, Vinny, celebrating this book with a Fudgy the Whale cake, or are you done with Fudgy the Whale now?
I'll never be done. I've had so many Fudgy the Whale. I've sent so many of them to friends. I feel like I should have stock in Carvel at this point.
They should be paying you.
But no, I think, put the Xanax aside. If you're having a bad day, get a Fudgy the Whale.
I totally agree. All right, Allie, it was so good to see you.
And
I'm glad to see you on the other side of these things. And
thank you.
Allie's book, Allie's Well That Ends Well, is out everywhere now. And be sure to check out Allie's podcast, Go Ask Allie. Thank you so much.
Like and subscribe, as the kids say.
Like and subscribe.